Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Dr. Mack, and we're going to be looking this afternoon at the literary period of naturalism. This is going to be important to you because it's going to show you how you can actually do a presentation yourself. My thesis or proposition is that naturalism was a literary movement in the United States, France, and England from 1880 to 1940, which depicted reality determined outside of oneself. And to prove this, there's going to be three observations we're going to make to explain this reality. One is that we're looking at the literary period and some of the authors in major works. Secondly, we'll be examining the historical period. And then finally, we're going to look at one of the heroes in this literature from The Sea Wolf by Jack London in the year 1904. Well, first, let's look at the literary period. The characters were much like marionettes on puppet strings. Heredity and environment controlled everything that happened to those particular characters. And social Darwinism was actually the part of the model that was used. Another one was determinism. Put those together, and what do you have in a usually an urban setting, and lower class struggles was just some basically man versus nature, and you also had man versus himself. Additionally, some of the literary period authors and works, you had Emile Zola, who was first to use the term naturalism. You had Edith Wharton with her novel The Age of Innocence. And there was Frank Norris, who wrote McTeague, which was how greed and ambition ruined a dentist. Stephen Crane with The Red Badge of Courage. You have David Phillips, The Plum Tree, as a political corruption novel. And then, of course, Mark Twain. Now, secondly, that explains this naturalist period of literature is the historical period itself. Some of the distinctives here were the dealing with immigration. So much immigration was coming not only from outside of our country, from European countries, but also within, moving from the farms and rural communities into the cities. In France, there was a revolution and corruption as well. So the movement into the cities caused a lot of problems with unemployment, crime, labor wars, and poverty. The effects of the Industrial Revolution also was a changing part of this naturalist time period. The population doubled to about 100 million, from 50 to 100 million people during this time. And then the New York Stock Exchange collapsed, not only the time that we remember in 1929, but also in 1893 as well. And then third, the thing that makes this particular period distinctive, in the sense that shows that it's naturalism and everything was determined outside itself, is an example of The Sea Wolf by Jack London. He wrote this when he was 28 years old. What was the characteristics of this particular hero, of Humphrey Van Weyden? Well, one of the things is that in this time period, there were a lot of tested individuals. Most of the time, they were some common, ordinary citizens that were in bad circumstances, again, controlled by heredity and the environment. And also, it was the fact that sometimes some of those were actually cultured individuals that were, if you will, put into a wilderness situation. You had Buck that Jack London wrote about, the wolf that was moved from San Francisco into the environment of the Yukon. And then also Humphrey Van Weyden, aristocrat that moved out of San Francisco, taken aboard the Ghost, which is the sea craft, and underneath the brutality of the captain, which was Wolf Larsen. Humphrey Van Weyden had a choice. He could either do nothing and survive, or he could attempt futile change and risk death. And such was the lot of those that found themselves characters in this situation and in this time period. Beliefs were often challenged, and yet in many cases, sometimes the heroes were able to were convicted to act justly. Some of the time, again, they were controlled by their environment and by the heredity that was taking place. Well, in conclusion, then, we've examined the high points of naturalism. We've talked about some of the historical highlights of this period. And thirdly, we've discussed Hump, which was one of the heroes in this time period. Are there any questions? Well, if you don't have any questions, I have one. This was a Jeopardy that I got off the internet. And we'll just take one question so you can see how this could be used in a presentation. Let's take theory for 100. It says, does not accept values of ethics and morality, nor does it believe in God. Barbara, do you have an answer to that? What is naturalism? And that's correct. Well, thank you for your participation. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.